to our onboard hospitality video slot, a short and sweet video pick-me-up designed to keep the conversations between airlines and suppliers going through these toughest of times and help us all make positive plans for the future. We're Zoom calling key players in our sector, asking them one big question on the future of in-flight service relevant to their area of expertise. And with me today is Robin Padgett, Senior Vice President at dnata Catering. Welcome, Robin, and thanks for joining us. It's so good to talk to you because, of course, caterers have been right at the front line of this pandemic and are suffering greatly. So it's really good to hear from the heart of the rethinking of the new normal. And so I think our one big question for you is, how do you think onboard catering will look 12 months from now, both in terms of the food we're offering and also in the way it's delivered to the passenger?
On a big picture scale, there will be less people to serve. But that doesn't mean there won't be an active and vibrant marketplace, and there will be interesting opportunities for us as airline caterers and great experiences potentially available to the end consumer, the passenger on board, that can be facilitated by the airlines. So for me, the way I do see things is, I think we'll struggle a little bit on some of the premium cabins. And you know, the very fact that you and I are chatting here today on video conferencing suggests that this is fairly normal. And I think for many of those people who would have hopped on a plane in business class to fly to see a customer for a catch-up meeting to review how their products and services themselves were going, and to make sure the relationships were right, and so I think there'll be less of those trips. I don't think you have to be particularly a management guru to work that one out. It'll take a while for confidence and sentiment to rebuild. It'll also take a while for companies to allow their travel budgets to rebuild as well. So the premium cabins, particularly that business class, I think will be smaller and more moderate. And in that sense, that's where a lot of airline caterers have been playing some of the interesting culinary enhancements over the last few years. And certainly we've taken an opportunity over the last 5 years to really up our skills in that area, employing great chefs across our network to expand and enhance our cook chill process for business class passengers. So that's one thing where I think we're going to be a little bit reserved on as we go forward. Maybe in the ultra premium, that first class cabin, that might hold up. I think it's a very small niche, and there's not that many airlines operating it. And the fare levels that cabin attracts, and the kind of end consumer who are prepared to purchase those fares, I think they'll be a little bit more robust. It's the back cabin, the economy cabin, I think will be interesting. We have seen, I'd say over the last 10 years, a good deal of investment by airlines in that back cabin and their products. And they, we may look back on it as the halcyon days, where they were trying to differentiate themselves from their competitors by really pushing their brand and their brand identity through their food service and the food product they put on board. Unfortunately, I think that will be attacked a little bit. To differentiate, to have different products at a time when you've got a smaller customer base and you're fighting for the same customers might be a bit difficult for some airlines. I hope not, because I think the brave ones and the ones who will probably be most successful in the long run will be the ones who understand the importance of brand and understand the importance of differentiation. But I think there'll be a number who will, for purely tactical and purely for cost-focused reasons, will perhaps look to see how they can spend less on board. Now that sounds quite grave, and that sounds quite difficult. But I actually think it's a wonderful opportunity. Because where we've seen airlines who have looked robustly at their onboard product and then done something interesting with it, is often where they've completely flipped on what they've done. So perhaps they've moved from a complementary onboard product to a retail concept. Now, where it's been done well is not just an extension of what they do, it's a brand new way of working, a whole new way of looking at their customer experience. Often the skills that are for retail are very different from those that exist in that airline at the time they want to swap over.
they'll need skills that they probably wouldn't have in a normal in-flight services.
And so the ability for ranging, for merchandising, for inventory management, for supplier relationship management with brands where that's appropriate, for crew motivation, crew training, because it's a very different process to selling something to giving it away. For cash management, for credit card handling, for the data analytics that go behind it to make sure you've got it correct, and for the revolving process of making sure that the right products are on the right flight for the right demographic that are being flown. Sounds simple when you're putting it down as a list, but actually it's a complex and scientific process.
And do you think the pandemic, in a way, may have made the passenger more receptive to that sort of model because they want to have a little more control over what they're buying? They perhaps want to look at a list of products that are going to be available beforehand and will perhaps even be willing to pay a little bit more for these products if that's what was required.
Yeah, I think absolutely spot on. I mean, even before the pandemic, if you think about the buzzwords that were running around the industry, one of them was personalisation and making sure you delivered a personal product to an individual customer. And no one would dispute that getting the right product to an individual customer is the nirvana of our industry. Retail actually helps you do that because it allows you to understand your customers more deeply. When you're giving a product away, you actually don't know what you've given to who. Actually, retail, because you're collecting data as you go, and as long as you anonymise it appropriately, use it in compliance with all the various data protection laws that we have globally, it's an incredibly powerful way of personalising. Make sure you get the customer to a place where they get the product they actually want.
So does that really take us to technology? Is that the solution that we're all going to be coming around to?
Technology is undoubtedly the backbone to the solution, yeah. But it's how you configure that technology and how you configure it and make it work with a warm human component, how the crew sell that, use that technology wisely to make it an intuitive and happy sales process. I think it is vital. Technology on its own doesn't solve it, but technology as part of a well thought through retail program is very exciting.
And touching on the crew there, obviously they are the service element of the equation, but with the challenges of PPE and the new normal as far as hygiene is concerned, do you think you'll have to adapt the product concepts that you are providing so that they are given out in a completely different way?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we certainly are in the short run, and through some of our businesses like En route, we've developed what we're labelling customer safe products. But actually, pre-packaged, limited handling, that kind of stuff. But actually, the science of this is as always a little bit more subtle and a little bit more interesting. As an industry pre-COVID, we were serving 13 billion meals a year, to our customers, and we were doing that incredibly safely because I think airline catering and our food safety standards, even before the crisis, were second to none. We had, extremely detailed awareness and understanding of how our food was handled, how it was stored, and where it ended up. So an external auditor, you can interrogate any of our businesses, any of our locations, and you can trace product back all the way through every minute part of its life and understand what was happening with it. So it was already incredibly safe and incredibly well managed. We've obviously got to take account of what's happened with the pandemic and make sure that we can reassure stakeholders like the airlines and our end customers. And within our trade body, the ACA, we've recently developed even more rigorous standards, which I think should put virtually everyone's mind to rest in terms of how safe food is on board. And if I look at what even the WHO, the World Health Organization, is saying, there is no evidence that disease, viruses like COVID-19 are passed through food. And as far as I'm aware, It simply isn't transmitted in that way. But we've got to obviously get that message across the consumer and explain it, say, before we move back to perhaps some slightly more traditional ways.
And do you think that airlines recognise the need to bring hospitality back and fast? And that means bring back food and beverage on board to a good quality standard?
Yeah, look, you spot on again. We are at our heart a hospitality industry. You know, we welcome, airlines welcome customers onto their planes. They have a brand and a heritage individually. You enhance and push that brand, and through how you interact with people, through that hospitality aspect. If you want to somehow be able to differentiate the fares you charge, to be able to make to engage loyalty with and get people coming back to you, it has to be a warm, inviting environment. And food, as everyone knows, is a part of any warm, inviting environment.
Are you confident that these IATA suggestions that there shouldn't be any food and beverage on board will soon be recognised to be just a knee-jerk reaction, that we will all get past that?
Yeah, I mean, from our perspective, some of these rules really have been knee-jerked, are ill-considered, and I can understand why. It's a difficult situation. Information has come out over slowly over time. So I have nothing but sympathy for the people trying to make these rules and trying to make sure that people feel safe. Thank you again, keep us safe as well as the reality. But as we get to know and understand the science, some of the rules that are being proposed and are being used at this moment in time, I think really don't serve a purpose going forward and will need to be relaxed. And we'll need to drop off. So I'm very optimistic that it won't take very long for that to come back.
The whole travel retail thing, that really does seem to be undergoing a bit of a shift. We had been seeing duty-free sales declining on board and much food and beverage being bought before boarding in some cases. But obviously this could be a chance to reinvent it all and improve that element.
I think this is, and there was a trend there anyway, as we talked about for some time. I think this is going to speed it up quite dramatically. I think the airlines that will be interested in this will be the ones who grasp the nettle really early on.
Yeah. Yes, and are you getting the vibe from them that they are thinking in these terms and are embracing the opportunity?
Yeah, it's really. We've had, I'd say, 5 or 6 really serious discussions with airlines that we're in the middle of now, where they're completely revamping their product, want full retail program on board. They don't want to run it because they can't afford to spend the money on it. They don't have the expertise. And so, if some of those come off, they will be well ahead of the guys who just say, let's restart with what we were doing before. Yeah. Let's give away the product. I think the key is the range. You've got to understand the demographic of your customers, get ranges of merchandise appropriate to them, and the brands they like, the products they like, and you've got to make that sales process as seamless and easy as possible. And there, getting that bit right isn't just the technology; it's getting the crew happy. If you're a lot of crew, particularly on the more legacy airlines, retail is almost a dirty word, isn't it? But it needn't be. It can actually be a really warm, happy interaction. And if trained well, it can actually be really enjoyable for everyone involved in it. It's not a bad thing. So that's what we're trying to get across.
Well, it's great to hear that from you, that you think that some of the anxieties around food and beverage service will shift pretty quickly and that we will have delicious culinary and new catering innovations coming back on board soon.
I'm sure we will see a shift, and I'm sure we will see some of the best bits of flying return again.
Good. Well, let's just close it there, because we all want to end on a positive note and we all want to be left thinking about delicious food. So thank you for joining us and identifying some really positive opportunities ahead. And let's hope we will soon be back on board sampling some of the wonderful things we know caterers can do, and that you will find some new and exciting ways of making that happen.
Oh, Julie, thank you. And thank you very much for allowing me to come onto this session. And can I just say to everyone who's watching this, I hope that everyone's safe and everyone's well. And we at Dnata are looking forward to catching up with all our old friends once business returns to normal, once we're allowed to fly as normal. So it hopefully won't be too long. And I think there'll be many opportunities to look to the future, and I think optimistic to the future.